Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Real podcast. We're so excited that you're with us. Each and every week, we're going to open up God's Word. We're going to have some discussion around what it means to live an intentional life. So let's listen in as we try to get real together.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Get Real podcast. My name is Brandon Guindon. I am the senior pastor here at Real Life Ministries, Texas, and I'm grateful that you're joining us here on this episode of our podcast. And I am here with my good friend, podcast partner, ministry buddy, Lori Arnold. And also joining us today, which I'm so excited, is to have my wife, Amber, here with us as we are talking about healthy marriages. Amber, you can say hi to everybody.
Hello.
And we have launched this new series on healthy marriage. And if you missed the last episode, we'd encourage you to go back and watch that, because we kind of set up the context of this conversation that we're going to have. And today, Amber and I are going to be sharing some things that we've learned. And I think Lori's going to throw some questions at us. But if this our podcast in general has helped you, encouraged you, been a source that's helped you in your walk with the Lord, that you would share that with those around you, your friends and family, and post it in social media, all of those kind of things to help our podcast grow, because we do believe in the message that we're talking about, that walking with Jesus is an everyday lifestyle. It's a real thing. And it comes with ups, downs, struggles, hurdles, all of those things, incredible moments of joy. And we want to be able to share the things that we've learned of what it means to be a disciple of Jesus and following him every day. And so, Lori, I'm going to kind of kick it over to you in that, this whole issue of healthy marriage and what that looks like, and putting into practical application passages like Ephesians chapter 5 and us loving and respecting and honoring and walking out the marriage relationship. And so thoughts you have to get us going, questions maybe you would have for Amber and I, and throw it over to you.
Well, first, I just want to say that y'all do this very well. And I am grateful to get to sit in the seat that I get to sit in every day in life, and not this physical seat. I like this one too. Yeah. But just to get to be a part of your lives. And I know that Kevin would say the same, as you both have poured into us as well and blessed us in very many different circumstances, good and bad and challenging and all the in between. Yeah. So I'm so glad to have you here, Amber. And I love not only what you've done with the kids, which adds a whole other challenge in marriage, right?
Right.
And good too.
Depends on the day. Depends on the day.
Yeah, good too. Yeah. But specifically, I kind of want to jump right in and go into when things, because I tried to do this last episode when I automatically went like with the bad, like the things not to do. But when things are hard, because there might be listeners right now that are listening when things are hard, like what is your go-to? How do you get through those hard moments? What do you do to help keep your marriage in a healthy place? Like, what are some of the practical things that people can learn from? Yeah.
You want to start? You want me to start? So yeah, we've shared some of that. We've been through, we've had our moments of really difficult and things of tragedy and difficult, but you said something I'm going to keep going back to on the last episode that I think has helped us for sure, is having scripture, biblical truth at the center of what we do, at the center of for us. And so, because there's so many different times, of how we feel about something, the emotions that we have over it, the hurt or the pain or whatever that it is, of being able to come back to and go, okay, what does God say? Yeah. What, when we have been in, a really difficult or dark time, going, okay, this stinks, but we know scripture says he hasn't abandoned us. He's there. And here's the ways in which we see that he's there. So I think, the first thing that I would say is keeping, his word, him at the center of what we do. The second thing that I would say, and Amber, I think this is something that you could speak on as well, is having intentional time together when things are good, like it's part of your routine, it is so critical, so that when something comes along that's hard, you're not 100 miles apart from each other when the event occurs. You've been walking together up to that point. And so having that intentional time, whatever that might look like for a couple, is really, really critical in kind of the everyday who you are routine. I mean, we've not been able to have every single week where we have that, but trying to have that. And so I know that's a big one for you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, and part of that is like, we always had to reevaluate that at different stages of our life. We've had to do it a little different. When the kids were little and I was home, he needed to take me out of the house for the date, because the house was my workplace and I could not focus on him. All I could see was the dirty laundry. And when I went back to work, I wanted to have a date at home because I was tired of being out of the house. And just the life would get as busy as we'd let it. So I had to remember to prioritize him above the kids. And that is something I might still have to be conscientious of. Because it is me and him, and we're going on empty nesters. And if you don't prioritize this, they're not always going to be there. And so that had to always be a priority. But so we can never just be with what we did. We always have had to evaluate and reevaluate what we do. I think that was crucial, because the same thing doesn't work all the time.
That's right. I mean, it different stages work, different things. But I think also, and I'll just add this, is that intentional time, it's something that works for both of us. I know that, even if we early on were going out of the house, I knew about her. Like for me, I don't really care. Like it's not a big deal to me whether we ate at a fancy restaurant, right? Or we picked up sandwiches and sat on a park bench. Like I just wanted to be with her. So I really didn't. For some people, that's not the case. Like it means a lot to them to save up money and go eat somewhere that's really fancy and a nice, all of that. And that's fine. But we had a common ground in that of going, and I know this about her, she's actually in some ways happier with the lunch on the park bench than at a fancy restaurant. And so I didn't feel like I had to, right? That was a common ground that we could meet on it, and it made those date days or date evenings or whatever work better. I
think that's great. It kind of brings up, like, it reminds me of just having those realistic expectations. I know is something that we'll talk about as well, but knowing like what she's interested in, and that she would prefer the lunch on the park bench or whatever, or the dinner there or whatever, as opposed to trying to force something that is and create some image of whatever the world thinks that it should look like, that's huge. That's huge.
I think another part, and because I know this mattered a lot to you, is that we sought out an older couple that we could look to as far as a mentor. I remember really early on for us when we had little kids, and we really looked to the Cullums. Like their kids were just ending the teen years, and you talked to Spring, and you those kind of things. So I think that's an important part, that because that took a humility to say, I don't have it all figured out. I need to go learn. And I think that's a strength you and I both have, is we both just want to win, and so if we got to set our pride aside, we will. And so talk a little bit about that, because I know that was a big deal to you.
Yeah. I mean, you have to go seek it. Like we didn't assume we knew. And in some of these things, like we had pretty good examples. Both of our parents were still married, but I didn't always want to ask that with my parents. And I wanted to see someone I did life with, so you watch. So, but it took some humility, because, you think had to figure out, how he ticked. And I've been still learning this my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And so just someone could ask me good questions.
Yeah.
And so that really, really helped. It's evolved over the years. And sometimes it's just watching. So people don't, they may not be obvious, but definitely watch people, how they handle it. I've had a lot of different people over the years that I've asked questions, what to do next.
Yeah.
So it just, there's a lot of people who are doing it right. And, yeah. And it's okay to ask, and it's okay to not know.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah.
You don't know unless you learn it. So we got to learn it somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's great. I know that you had mentioned before when we were just talking, getting ready to record, about also seeking out some other resources.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I know that oftentimes in the church, especially, we see people when they're hurting. People come in when they're hurting, but I'm a firm believer, and I think y'all are the same, that we don't want to just go and get help when we're hurting.
Right.
We should also be looking for resources when things are good.
Right.
So can you tell us a little bit more about those resources, or what that looked like for you, and how it's helped?
Yeah. I think for me, it was, and I know not everybody is wired this way, but there's just a part for me that I want to be as healthy and successful, not in the world sense, as I can.
Yeah.
And so that means as the husband, I have to put my pride down and go, what areas am I not equipped in that I need to go learn? And so there's been a value in our marriage, and I'm so grateful because Amber's been the same. This is something we both have been this way, is to go get the tools that we need. And we, with our parents on both sides, we had things that were modeled well, and but there's things we still needed to learn. I grew up with my parents, but they weren't believers when I was growing up. They did the best that they could, and they did a good job, but there was a lot of stuff in the Christian world and that I didn't know. And so along the way, then us getting those tools. And so we went to different conferences.
Okay.
We sought out some counsel and counselors to be able to gain and put kind of tools on our tool belt that we could use, along the way. And, you had said it earlier, one of the things that it kind of always just felt like, and I think this is for people, you're a little bit behind of the season you're moving into, because you move into it and you're like, oh crud, I don't know how to do this. Or I learned something new about her, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. And so I need to learn. And so you're always kind of behind, and then therefore you got to go learn. The key is, are you willing to go learn and add the tool to the tool belt? And so I think that's been a value for us. And thoughts you have on that?
Yeah. I mean, I think we searched out, especially with the counselors, different things about our design and how God made us, and to accept that. We did various crazy things. Like we had to learn how to fight, because I like to process internally, and I need to be left alone to think. And he is like not going to stop until it's resolved. And so he had to learn to let me go think for a minute, but I had to give him the security that I promised I'd come back.
Yeah.
So
That's
little
so good.
things like that, but that was really unnatural to both of us.
Yes. Great example.
And so just learning that, and because it wasn't just about me, something very brave that he's good at asking, and I get better at asking, is every year, at least once a year, he asks me, what am I doing good? Where do I need to improve as your husband? So I think he's very brave for asking that, but also I have to be brave and tell him the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not always a super comfortable conversation. But I think, and then if we don't have the tools, we go seek out the tools to adjust to those things.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
But sometimes we can do it ourselves. Sometimes we can see it with other people, but sometimes we've had to go get help to work on those issues, whatever they might be.
Yeah. That's
great.
That's a great example. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned your design and that, because I think that I know that I know that trying to use I statements here, but I had certain expectations when I got married, about what it was going to look like and how he would behave and the things he would do and to wash me with the word, and it's the way that I thought it was going to be done, and so, but even in that, I've had to also learn how to accept his design and the way that God created him. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't do the things exactly how I would like him to all the time, but I've learned to deal with that and accept and love that about Kevin. He's not here. I keep pointing right here he's here.
Yeah.
But one day there will be a Kevin right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I love that you mentioned that though, because I do think, and I said it a couple times now, but just having realistic expectations. And that's one of them, accepting the person for who God created them to be. And kind of goes back to our last series that we talked about, God's part, my part, their part.
Right, that's good.
We can't control the other person and what they're to do. So I love that y'all are using these resources to work on self as you are working together.
Yeah.
In this covenant relationship with each other and with the Lord. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think, what you were saying about that issue of us learning how each other's designed and giving that space, I guess, but also the part that I have felt, and I think we've tried to do this along the way is, and it connects to the expectations part, is giving grace to each other to learn, giving grace in the, in the hard and going, for me as the husband and they're trying to take a step back at times and going, okay, we're in this season right now where we were laughing about it last night. We've had kind of laughing ha 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 kind of thing. And God, it's great, but we have had people in our home since before Thanksgiving. We're almost to Christmas, every day, family. And because we launched the new building and we've, the holidays and all of this stuff, our kids they're at college or home from college, which all of it is wonderful and fantastic. But we were getting a little used to the empty nest thing. And we could make a little tiny meal and share it and we're good.
Yeah.
I came home yesterday and the two that are at home ate an entire loaf of bread, like that kind of thing. And the kitchen's a mess and blah, blah, blah. So we've been in this time, a season where it's been a lot.
Yeah.
And it's good. So all of my family that's watching, we're so grateful and glad you've been there.
We loved it.
We've loved it, but also giving grace, going, we're both tired. It's been a lot. It's been a lot of conversations. It's been, it's just been a lot. And so I have to go, okay, give grace, give grace to each other and know it's a season and we'll get through it and it'll be fine. And I think that's a part of it that really matters in those expectations and kind of, meeting together in wherever we are in life.
Yeah.
Also, I think we recognize when we're in that place faster now. It doesn't take as long.
That's true.
Before we'd be way down the rabbit trail of annoyed and we'd be like, wait a second, what's going on? Yesterday, I knew he did something that annoyed me. And I was like, this doesn't annoy me. I'm just tired. On a normal day, that doesn't annoy me. So I was recognizing how tired I was that's bothering me.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, girl, you got to rein this in because he's really not doing anything. you just need a timeout.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a timeout in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
The sound of you chewing annoys me, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Well, was there any other questions you wanted to fire at us before we close down?
Not really.
This episode?
There is one more thing that I know that y'all do that you haven't mentioned.
Okay.
And they have a little commute when they come to work, and they use that really well. And I love that y'all do this, and you listen to the Bible together.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I just wanted to give that as another practical tool that you could possibly do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's something fairly new. It's been the last year and a half because we moved and we've had that space and we're working together. And so we've thought, man, this would be a perfect to use how the season changed, where we are, and being able to listen to the word together. And then we always kind of shut it down a little bit before we get into the office to just talk, through what did we hear, what stood out, and be able to kind of process that together.
Yeah.
And it's back to that original thing you said. We have to keep the Lord, his word, his truth at the center, so that when things sideswipe us or whatever, we've been doing the healthy things up to that point that's kept us together and as you said, kind of growing towards the Lord.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, hopefully from today, everybody that's watching, listening is able to take something away from this. I would really encourage you, and I think all of us, is that part about keeping the Lord there at the center, those things, doing those maintenance things, being willing to grow and add tools in. And I think, Amber, something you said it's good of that part of learning kind of and knowing each other's design and giving that grace and knowing, okay, this is how I'm wired, but this is how my spouse is wired, and learning and understanding that and being able to work together, I think I know has been huge for us, and hopefully some of you have been able to take that away from this. And so we look forward to having you all on our next episode, and I'm hoping that Kevin will be able to join us so you don't have to point over to an empty space, and we will ask some more questions. And so God bless you all, and thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the Get Real podcast today. My hope each and every week is that you're able to take the content, apply it to your life, that it becomes more of who you are and less of what you do, and that we live an intentional life together. If you're interested in supporting the work of ministry here at Real Life Texas, we'd like to invite you to do that by going to reallifetexas.org/give and supporting us today.